Right, everybody, I'm back doing Moon Knight episode 3, and do a bit of a recap from episode 2, where we last saw Mark in Cairo, where he'd gone to Egypt, and so it carries on where you see Layla getting some photos took for her passport and that, and she's talking to her friend and that. I won't really pay much interest because it's two women talking. Probably wasn't that much important to the plot. Well, anyway, her friend does fake passports so she can go to Cairo and that, because I think there was some trouble. Cause later on you were like, oh yeah, what you doing in Cairo for? Like there's people after you and that shit. But anyway, she gets a fake fucking passport done, and then you see Harrow. Arthur Harrow and that, with his scarab thing that has got to a point where it's pointing downwards, and so it's like, oh yeah, this is where we need to be digging for the Omid god to release her from her tomb or whatever she's encased in down there. But they're doing a dig anyway. Well, then you see Mark running on top of these rooftops and that, doing a bit of free running. Yeah, parkour. That's it. Yeah, doing a bit of that. And he gets to a place where he sees these three sort of punks and that who have just stabbed an archaeologist who knew where the Omid dig is going to be, and that's why they've killed him and that. Well, a fight because Mark knows, like, oh yeah, these three must know where the dig is going on and that. So yeah, gets down, starts kicking some ass and that. Now this fight scene, for an actor, it's pretty good. For a fucking top martial artist, it's pretty poor. But he's an actor. There's plenty of masculine action with the Moon Knight dude who gets dressed up in the Moon Knight costume. Sometimes it could even be played by a woman, but whoever's playing in the Moon Knight costume though, they are proper stunt people. Probably men. But sometimes I will use women, especially if it's going to be splits or something, or something that men aren't all that good at. But yeah, so a knife fight in that starts going on and that, yeah, and some pretty good moves in that. From Oscar Isaac, he plays more of a duck and dive sort of fighter, where he's not beating the shit out of them that much. He's sort of like hit and run sort of thing. But yeah, do some good ducks in that, and then a bit of comedy sort of where the dude licks his knife and that, but then gets punched in the face. So yeah, well, he gets to a stage where he has one of them up against the sort of wall with the knife against the throat, and he's probably going to slit the throat and that. And he sees his reflection in the knife with Stephen saying, "Don't do it, Mark. Don't do it," sort of thing. Then he sort of like has a sort of like blackout, sort of fucking seizure sort of thing, and wakes up in a taxi. And he's like, "Oh, stop the taxi," and that. So the taxi gets stopped and that. And then he sees two of the dudes who he'd just been trying to interrogate. Well, anyway, he says, "Oh yeah, I want a word with you," and that, but they just run. They're like, "Oh no, you let us go," and that. Well, anyway, he's like, "Oh, I'll let you go." So chasing them and that, some pretty good sort of chase scene and that. Jumps off a van at one stage. Well, anyway, he catches up to one of them and that, pins him up against the wall and starts like questioning him where the tomb is and that. Well, then he sees Stephen in the mirror again, who's like, "Oh, he's had enough," sort of Mark. Let him go, sort of thing. Well, whilst he's talking, the assassin punk dude's mate comes up behind him and smacks him on the back of the head and that, where he falls to the floor and goes unconscious into a blackout stage, and then wakes up with a knife in his hand, as he just plunged it into the dude who he had hold of his throat and that. And so he has a look around and that, and sees like the other dude is dead, and he's questioning like to Stephen, "What did you do?" But Stephen is like, "I didn't do nothing," sort of thing. "I don't know what happened, but it wasn't me." So Mark sees like one of the little punks still alive, and Koto like tells Mark to hold the little punk over the side of the cliff to make him talk, to tell him where the archaeological site dig is of the Omid, sort of thing, where Harrow is. Well, anyway, he holds him over the like cliff and that, and asks him, but the little bastard cuts the fucking necktie sort of thing that he had, and falls off the cliff and that to his death. And like Koto's like, "Oh well, I thought he was gonna talk, never mind." And then Mark sort of like questioning like what they're gonna do to find the Omid's site, dig site. And so he like talks to Stephen, where Stephen's like, "Oh, I don't know, ask your pigeon friend," and that. And he like sort of asks Stephen like, "Oh yeah, what you been doing and that," and Stephen's just like, "No, I'm not doing nothing," sort of thing. You sort of like can do the stuff from here and that. So then he says to Koto and asks him if he's got any bright ideas, which Koto replies, "Oh no, but I've got a bad idea." And then he sort of like disappears and starts to make a solar eclipse appear. And anyone who won't know about solar eclipse and that, like, probably won't know that it's not supposed to be on that day. But Harrow sees it, Arthur Harrows and that, and so he knows, like, oh yeah, Koto's summoning the gods and that. So Mark and Koto sort of like walking down this little alleyway sort of thing to get this portal where he's asking Koto like, oh yeah, what? So where's it gonna appear in that? Where Koto's like, oh yeah, we don't know, but it will appear in that. Well, it appears in that, and Mark sort of like asks Koto if he's going with him and that, but Koto's like, oh no, I'll be there. Well, he goes in and that through into this oh the tomb of Great Giza. So he's walking through, and Stephen, he gets all excited and that about being in the tomb of the Great Giza and that, and he meets a woman who is the avatar to Hato, or Hato, goddess of music and love, who asked about Koto and that, but Mark's like, no, he's never really talked about anyone sort of thing. He just talks about revenge or justice or whatever and that. Well, the other gods, avatars, like, come into the room and that, and there was only 4 of them, 5 including the avatar of Hato, the goddess of music and love. Well, the head sort of god, whose avatar is in the middle sort of thing, asks why he's here and that, and then Mark becomes Koto's avatar, where Koto starts to tell the other gods that Harrow is trying to dig up Omid, the goddess of, like, seeing the future of people's crimes and that, and they've encased her apparently in that, and so it is a bit of a crime to uncase the Omid. Well, anyway, the god avatars and that, or the gods who are using avatars, summons Harrow, where Harrow sort of blatantly denies it, says he's just sort of like wanting a visit to Egypt and that, and there's no crime in wanting to have a expedition, exploration or dig or whatever in Egypt. So the gods sort of like say to Kotu sort of thing. Well, he says he's not and that. Where Kotu he gets mad and that, calls him a liar, and he's gonna like hit him. Goes to hit him, but the main God Council leader uses some kind of magical force bracelet on Kotu's arm, who is using Mark as an avatar, and it sort of like stops him and puts his arm around his back and puts him to the floor, where sort of Harrow starts calling Kotu a disgraced god and that, and he's sort of like misusing his avatar, and the avatar's unwell, saying he's seen him speaking to himself and he don't even know what his name is and that. Well, the gods give sort of like Mark the chance to answer, where Mark admits like, yeah, he is a bit messed up, but it doesn't deny the fact that Harrow is still trying to dig up Omid and release her, sort of thing. Well, there's no evidence or out that's good enough for the council, so they let Harrow go free because he was claiming like Kotu's messed up and he's messing up his avatar, like when he tried messing up Harrow when he was Kotu's avatar. So they let him go, and they tell Kotu to stop messing around with like the sun and moon to cause eclipse and that, unnecessary and that. And if he does it again, they're gonna banish him and that even more. They're gonna imprison him, sort of thing. So yeah, the gods leave their avatar bodies and that, and so the avatars just like walk off and that. Where then the Harto's avatar sort of tells Mark, that if he can't find the scarab to find the tomb, there's a sarcophagus that has a map, but it's a bit of a cryptic map. So, but there's a map in this topic. Um, it's like tomb, sort of like mummy's tomb, sarcophagus tomb. But she don't know where it is. But it got sold on the black market, and so if he can find out who the buyer was on the black market, then he can find this tomb. Um, said the name. Cenereves, Cenereves, something like that. Sarcophagus. Well, Mark then goes talking to this dude and that who's just selling some drinks and that, but he's probably one of those like Huggy Bear characters that knows a bit of connections. Well, he asks him about the sarcophagus, where he sort of just denies that, like he knows any place that it would be and that. Well, then Layla, she sort of like comes walking along real cash, and she's all like, oh, I sort of got a connection and that, because for some reason she like knows about this tomb and this sarcophagus sort of thing. Well, they get sort of like talking and that. Then Mark sees Corto like watching him, and he's like, "All right, come on, let's go," sort of thing. So then they're on this boat to this dude who has got the Cineveres sarcophagus, and she like apparently knows him, sort of thing, because she's into selling antiques and that, and so and he's into buying them and that. And she like gets talking to Mark and that about some shit, a bit girly crap on it and that. I think it was something about love relationships and that, and Mark wasn't so interested in that, and yeah, she sort of like might have said something important, but I won't pay much attention because he didn't really. I don't think he really says, but anyway, they get there and that, and they see like a sort of festival going on, and they get off the boat, and Mark puts some bags sort of like underneath the sort of boardwalk sort of thing. Don't know why, because they don't really get used. But whilst he's doing that though, he sees some dudes on like a boat looking suspicious and that. So he thinks like, oh yeah, they look a bit like shady. They could be Harrow's men, but they don't know. They could be just fishermen that look shady. But anyway, they sort of like see them, but yeah, there's nothing they can do really, and so they just walk up to where the Midnight Man, Anton Morgfit, Morgrat, is sort of like with his mates with his top off, hitting sort of wooden lances together. Don't know exactly what sport it was, but they sort of like stopped this and because Layla, she's sort of like talked to the bodyguard and that, and the bodyguard sort of like told Anton Morgat, and so he's got off his horse and put on like a robe and that, and come over to talk and that, and Mark goes to shake his hand and that because he's pretending to be someone else that's like obviously not Mark Spector. And so yeah, you shake hands and that. Then they sort of like walk to where he's got his sort of like glass house pyramids with his artifacts in. And he's got two of them and all, so like yeah, he's really got some cash to splash. So they like get talking and that, and he wants to know so like why he wants to see this sarcophagus that he'd bought. Well, Mark just says, oh, because he wants to just see it, and the dude's a bit suspicious, but he's like, alright then, well, it's there sort of thing. So anyway, Mark and Layla go in and start having a look at this sarcophagus because it's opened and all. It's not a closed one, it's open lid, so they can read inside and that, some details and that, and yeah, the genify it sort of thing. Then Stephen starts to like say, oh yeah, there's clues on it and that, but he wants his body back to do it. But Mark says, no, you're not having the body because you'll get us all killed and that. Just tell me what it is and that. So Stephen's like, all right then. Well, you've got to fold these pieces of paper sort of thing. Well, he tells Layla to go and buy him a bit more time and that, because this sarcophagus must be worth loads, because they're really sort of like fucking, oh, it must be real valuable to them because they're really protective of this sarcophagus. Yeah, the dude who plays Midnight Man, Anton Morgat, Gaspard Ulhel, Ulhel, because it looks definitely foreign and that. He plays a good part as being one of those like really rich sort of people who just think like, oh yeah, I can just walk around bare chested with my robe. I've got so much money, you know. But don't be messing with my artifacts. But anyway, Mark starts to mess around with the artifacts because he gets these sort of like canvassed sort of square bits of like stars uh, stuff as he starts to fold them because Stephen said, "Oh yeah, you've got to fold them to put them together to make a proper a map." Well, the bodyguard sees him messing around with it, pulls a gun on him, but Mark just like reverses the gun on him and that, and he's sort of like gonna like probably shoot his way like to the point where he can just fold them pieces of material in peace. But Anton Morgat's men have the guns pulled on Layla, so Mark just like gives the gun back and that, puts his hands up, but Anton, he's not too happy with him touching his artifacts and that, so he tells him to like get down on his knees, where he might have executed him, but he noticed a like third party sort of joining in, which you see Arthur Arrows walking down and that, and he brings out the scarab and that, and he's saying, "Oh, that sarcophagus is only um, a map to the treasure, but you can have the treasure and that you can share it in some of the power." And then he starts to like walk towards him, where Layla, she sort of like tells Anton not to like listen to him. He's gonna kill loads of people and that, because Harrow's plan is to unleash Omid, who will kill people who commit crimes in the future or the past, depending on what their circumstances is. But she's gonna kill a lot of. Well, anyway, then like Arrow sort of like tells Layla that she should ask Mark about our dad died and that sort of thing. Well, Mark sort of like shakes his head as in, "Oh, he's full of shit. He's just trying to fucking get into your head and that," which he tells her later on. But well, anyway, then sort of Arrow sort of shows Anton is sort of like cane walking stick sort of thing, that he has some like of Omid's power in, that he says he can demonstrate the power that he could be sharing in, where he makes like the stick glow sort of thing, And then Koto, he sort of like tells Mark to um, put the suit on and that, change into the suit and that, use the suit sort of thing. But Mark, he ain't doing it and that, and so Arrow, he sort of makes the sarcophagus sort of like stand, and the sarcophagus sort of coffin thing itself have this misty purple and blue mist going around it, where then it just sort of like explodes this sarcophagus into sort of like ash and that, and it makes that Anton dude sort of like take note. Well, Arthur Arrow, he walks off and sort of just says, "Oh yeah, like that's a bit of the power you can have," sort of thing. Like we'll talk, sort of thing, a bit more later. And then the horse dude notice Mark's gone and that, and then the bodyguards and Layla and that, yeah, they notice, oh yeah, where the fuck did Mark go? Well, then you see where Mark went, and it moon night sort of shit on top of the fucking glass pyramids, where he throws, oh yeah, the guard, fucking security guard proper, goes into fucking Operation Save the fucking Client mode, where he grabs him to safety, and that probably getting him as far as way from the Moon Knight action as possible, because then Moon Knight, he throws a moon rang thing into the guard who was sort of holding Layla hostage. Then he jumps off, and this is like pretty good sort of like Moon Knight comic sort of to films, comic book to film sort of adaptation, where you see the Moon Knight sort of cape sort of moon thing that he does in the comics all the time, sort of thing. Well, yeah, he flies down and you boost the other guard, and then the guests and that like were at the festival, like, fuck off. They start just running and that. Then Layla gets the gun off the dude that got moon harangued, and she sort of shoots 3 or 4 dudes that are like are running up, sort of thing. But then from the other side of the sort of horse rink, the other sort of guards come down, sort of shooting and that. Well, she runs to Moon Knight, where Moon Knight covers her up with his cape that's like bulletproof, that like the bullets are like getting sucked into his cape and that. Where then Layla says, "Oh, buy me some time." Where Moon Knight's like, "Yeah, okay then." Where Moon Knight then does a like bit of a fancy like jump and twirl sort of thing, very blasé. And then as he lands, he fires out the bullets from his fucking cape, masculine as fuck. It's like if anyone's sort of like, "Oh yeah, I don't like Moon Knight because there's not enough masculine action," throwing fucking bullets out your fucking cape. If that ain't masculine enough, I don't know what is. But there's more. There's fucking more. There's a bit of a soy bad fight, but it's not as bad as I've seen some bad fights. But anyway, the bullets, like, I don't know if they kill him or just wound him. I reckon they do kill him, but it was one of them where they couldn't film with a lot of extras to just, they tend to be dead on the floor. So there's more dudes that come up and that, or it could be the ones that he didn't shoot dead. But then he starts throwing moonerangs out at them, where he hits them, and so it fucks them up, so they drop the guns and that. And I don't know if one kills them, but anyway. Then Layla goes to the sarcophagus that like just got disintegrated, but there's still the material star fragment things that like you needed to fold up to get like a map. Well, she goes in there and grabs the rag things, but then the bodyguard, he sort of like steps in. Well, Moon Knight, he runs down into the horse rink and starts just beating the shit out of the dudes who he didn't shoot with the bullets that came out of his cape. It's fucking great good fucking scene and that. Don't mind going on this scene for a few minutes. Yeah, there was some good masculine action in that. But then it cuts to where Layla's beating the shit out of the bodyguard and that. And to be fair, she ain't totally kicking his ass, but she's beating his ass a bit too much for her size. But anyway, because there's fucking great masculine action in this, I'm letting this sort of like 2 minutes of like, I won't say shit, but very low par action scene. Well, when it goes back to more, he just fucking kick, and this is some good masculine action. This is where you're like, oh yeah, that's what you got to do when you want to do some masculine action fight scenes. You get a dude in to do some, who knows how to do some fight scenes and that. And yeah, you got to see it to appreciate it. Yeah, Moon Knight kicks off so bad here that Stephen's Moon Knight, which I found out is called Mr. Knight. He turns into, and as you know, with Moon Knight and Stephen's Moon Knight, who's called Mr. Knight, is a little bit of a soy Moon Knight. And this bit's a bit of comedy. Because he's all like, oh no, let's call a time out sort of thing. Let's sort of calm down. Well, anyway, he just gets fucking harpooned by them wooden lances. So he's all like, no. Oh, come, change back. Change back. So Mark comes back into his Moon Knight. And that he's like, oh, sort of shit. I've got these fucking lances in me and that. But masculine action though. He ain't pussing out. He's like, the fight goes on, and like, yeah, the suit and all must be special because like they're going right through, skewing it, and there's no blood, and it's not affecting their his sort of ability, apart from it being bit of an obstacle when you've got like a 6 or 7 or 8 foot pole sort of like rammed right through you. But great masculine action scene, this. Great. Well, anyway, then it goes back to where Layla's kicking more ass. And there's a scene where she punches the dude, and it's like, unless she was wearing knuckle dusters, he must have the softest fucking chin. But anyway, back to the masculine male action, because, oh yeah, it's how like Moon Knight's rolling. He's like, fuck it, I'm gonna use these wooden lances to my advantage, or spears, depending on like whatever he was using at the time. But well, anyway, he does a few dudes in and that. Oh, masculine action. This is This is where I was like, fuck yeah! I saw like a little sort of screenshot before they released the first episode and that, and it was like where he'd beaten up like some dudes, and I was thinking, oh yeah, I hope you get to see that. Not only do you get to see that, you get to see this. Oh, lances are just getting used like well, they're getting used a lot anyway. Well, anyway, he grabs her, right, and this was a bit sort of corny because he grabs her and throws her up and that, and she lands, which wasn't a bad stunt and that, but then he just like walks back. Where in real life he'd have picked her up, slammed her up against the sort of like it's like a door frame, but there isn't a door there. And when she hit the floor, he'd have then sort of like just stomped on her head, or even just jumped on her back and then stomped on her head. But anyway, he walks back in that, and Moon Knight's getting like kaplunked sort of thing. where Layla then, because the dudes walk back and he sort of like spread his arms out for a hug for some reason, Layla disconnects her bracelet to make two like little daggers, where she flies over and stabs a dude in his chest, where it was a bit corny because when she jumped at him, he could have easily like bolted her or just like pushed her, but he did none of them. He sort of like just stood there, where that's what you got to do with women usually. You've got to like strengthen and quicken the male opponent, which they did here, and it wasn't too bad. I've seen worse, but yeah. Compared to She-Hulk, this will be fucking top class action for She-Hulk. But for Moon Knight, this is pretty low ranking shite. But they do it for the soy nerds and women, hoping like, oh yeah, the soy nerds will be all, oh look, it's fucking a strong female kicking ass. But for some reason, they didn't like that. Don't know why. I've got a good idea, and I'll be doing a video on it or a live stream, one of the two. But back to Moon Knight. So anyway, after she fucks him up and that, she grabs a gun off the floor and sort of leaps over the fence, shoots a dude off his horse, but gets smacked in the back of the head by Anton with a wooden spear lance. She's out on the floor and that. Well, Mark fucking gets a bit pissed off and that. And this is where fucking masculine fucking action. Now, if Layla had a fucking jumped over the fence, shot a dude off the horse, then roundhoused fucking Anton off his horse, and then came over here and beat the shit out of these dudes, and then picked Moon Knight up, then I would have said, oh yeah, Moon Knight's been cocked to fuck. This is soy fucking shit. I don't want to be fucking watching anymore. But no, because fucking she got fucking knocked out, and then Moon Knight's all like, fuck, I'm not having that to my fucking woman. Even though he pretends like he don't really want to marry her, but he really does, don't he? He's got that sort of like, I don't want to get involved with you because I'm going on some crazy missions, and Code 2 wants you to be my fucking replacement and that, so I want you sort of like away from me. But when he saw this, he just fucking rages and that. And at this time, Anton, he's gone to get another wooden spear and that. Well, Moon Knight, he just fucking gets up, smashes the fuck out of the sort of wooden spear stake things, and sort of stabs the dudes and that, and beats the shit out of them. Really fucking good fucking masculine action. It was like, right, if you're in a situation where You got three dudes around you. Obviously, if they speared you with wooden fucking stakes, then you're gonna be pretty fucked up if you haven't got a Moon Knight suit. But if you have got a Moon Knight suit, then this is how you fucking beat the shit out of three dudes in 3 seconds. Fucking class masculine action. Well, anyway, with this, he can see fucking Layla's on the floor and fucking Anton's sort of charging towards her, probably gonna fucking spear her and that. Well, he runs and fucking gets there just before Anton and fucking like grabs her and rolls with her out the way, where then he grabs a moon meringue and fucking throws it into the back of Anton, and you don't kill him or out, but it sort of like injures him where he rides off like fucking like with a moon ring in his back. Well, then fucking Moon Knight picks up Layla, who he just fucking saved. Masculine fucking action. And she was sort of like a bit bruised and battered and that because she got smacked and that. But anyway, they walk off and then you see sort of Koto sort of like watching them sort of thing from a distance. Well, they get in a van and maybe that the bags that he had was the clothes, because he changes into a white hoodie and that, and they start talking about like her father sort of thing, what Arthur Harrows was saying, and Mark says, oh yeah, he was just getting into your head and that. But then later on, you see him sort of have that look to say, oh yeah, shit. I really fucking did do something to her dad, but I'm not gonna fucking tell her. Well, they're driving along and that, and they go out into the sort of like desert and that, and someone with a walkie-talkie in a van spots them and that, and radios it in. Says, oh yeah, we spotted them. Well, they don't notice the van and that, so they just keep going along and that, and they get sort of like to a place where they stop and they start looking at like what sort of got salvaged from the sarcophagus, and yeah, not all that much in that, and they don't really know what they're looking at. And Mark gets a little bit disgruntled, and he's like, oh yeah, this is going to take ages and that. Where Koto, he's sort of like, well, I summoned the gods, you can summon the idiot. As in Stephen, because Layla was saying like, oh yeah, Stephen will know and that. So Mark rips off one of the side mirrors of the Jeep and gets all the like oh material um, stuff that was from the sarcophagus goes sort of like onto the ground, and that like about 20 foot away, and then sort of like lets Stephen take the body, and so Stephen is now in controlling the body. So Stephen makes the sort of material into a star, which they find out, well, Stephen sort of like finds out that it's a constellation map, and so Layla sort of scans it with her iPad and that, and she's trying to like find a match, because wherever the like constellation sort of point is, that's where Omid is sort of incarcerated. Well, Stephen says, "Oh, it's not that great unless we know exactly what the star's alignment was when the map was done, which was like 1,000 or 2,000 sort of years ago, or whatever." Oh, 1,500 sort of years ago. Well, Koto, he then says, oh, he can remember what the star's alignment was that night. Well, then they both sort of like go up to where he was, and you get there, and the sort of like looking, but he's not there. But then he appears, sort of thing, and he says, "Oh yeah, we can sort of like, I can show you sort of like what the star alignments was, but it's going to be costly." And so when we do this, I'm gonna get incarcerated in stone by the gods. So tell Mark when you sort of like see him after we've done this sort of shit, to come to the tomb of the Great Giza, where the gods do their like sessions and that, and free him. Where Stephen's like, yeah, alright, sort of thing. And then this Koto tells Stephen to sort of do what he does. Yeah, so Stephen changes into the Mr. Knight suit, sort of thing, and puts his arms up and that, and starts to like move his arms, where then the sky sort of starts spinning, and they spin it so fast, and that they start to make real bright lights appear, where people are like sort of looking and that, and they get to the stage where, yeah, it's really sort of skipping back in time and that, and making the sky seem like some kind of crazy rainbow. Well, they still sort of got to get sort of back at that, but it's becoming a bit sort of painful and that, because it's taking their energy and that. Well, Arthur Harrows, he sees the sky and that, and he knows what's going on, and he's sort of like, oh, Corto's gonna get um, severely punished by the gods and that. Well, she's still looking to see if they can find the star sort of map. Well, then you see the gods' avatars sort of thing joining hands and that and chanting, where you see like a stone sort of pillar sort of rising up, where it starts to insculpt a stone sculpture of Corto, not in his like mummified form, but in his sort of like before he's like mummified. Well, the finally sort of she finally sort of like finds the location and that, because they got the stars back to that day the map was drawn, or the star alignment map was drawn and that, or made. Well, she gets the coordinates and that, but Stephen, he sort of like passes out and that, and Corto sort of like gets disintegrated and starts to like evaporate sort of thing. And yeah, Stephen's still on the floor, and Layla's sort of like screaming at him, but he's out cold and that, he's proper unconscious. Well, then it goes to where the Avatar God sort of thing, he's sort of like told Arthur Harrows that he was right about Corto being sort of dishonourable and a shamed god, that he started going against their orders, where they told him not to start messing around with the sort of like skies and that, or stars or and that they put him in like a stone casing, where they say, yeah, they think that he still can hear what's going on, but he's still cased in a little stone statue, where then Arthur sort of like gets left alone, where he starts to tell Corto that he loved inflicting pain on the people who Corto sent him to deal justice out on, and he got like broken though through it, and now he's gonna release Omid to make Corto sort of like see what a mistake he made, sort of thing. I think it was like he started talking a bit crazy because then he like picks up Corso's little stone statue that he's been encased in, uh, and he sort of said like, "I'm gonna make you proud," which is a bit confusing and that, because he had a sort of like tear in his eye that he wanted revenge on his former mentor, that he's gonna get a better mentor with Omid. I think that's on the line, sort of thing. He's wanting to like change the world by releasing Omid that she's gonna kill all the bad people in the world, and even all the people who are gonna be bad in the world. And then it ends. So yeah, that's episode 3. As I say, great masculine action. Okay, well worth a watch. So, thanks for watching. Cheers. Bye.